Welcome back to Across the Board with Ian the Colonel here on hawkradio.org and acrosstheboardradio.com. You know, we always talk about rock and how rock is the genre that is thriving right now. So we're having a lot of rock bands on, man. And one of my favorite bands, it's been around for several years in different incarnations. Us being big UFC fans, we've really been exposed to them that way as well, has got to be STEMM out of New York. And we've got Danny, the drummer, with us right now. Danny, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Absolutely, man. Anytime. So let's talk about, again, huge fans of the band, but let's talk about what's going on right now. You guys have gone through so many lineup changes. I think what's interesting about you guys is a lot of bands go through tons of lineup changes, but kind of keep the same sound. You guys have actually switched your sound up 2 to 3 different times. How do those lineup changes affect the band? I mean, you kind of you joined the band a little bit later in time as well. How does that affect the sound?
Well, the primary writer, as far as the music goes, is Joe. And Joe is the only original member left from the birth of STEM, which was in 97, 98. So his vision has pretty much always stayed intact. And as members come and go, they add things to the recipes of the songs or whatnot. But for the most part, Joe's been pretty on with the direction that he's wanted to take it.
Okay. And, I love every direction you guys have taken. I'm a fan throughout the years, for sure.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah. Thanks for putting out the great music, man. Now, am I correct that Crossroads is the most current CD, correct?
Yep, Crossroads came out September 12th of 2011, last year.
Absolutely, and a great album as well. What do you guys have coming up, as far as the next album, touring, what's the near future look like for STEM? You guys only have, I think, 2 shows up on the Facebook page right now, but, what are we looking like?
Yeah, as of right now, we've got our hometown show / Joe's birthday party in our hometown in February. It's right now. It's kind of the table's a little bleak just because being in Western New York, you never know what the weather's going to be like.
Right.
So I mean, we try to keep the shows to a minimum. The traveling to a minimum from January through March, just because of that. That fact. Case in point, 2 days ago it was 50 degrees. Right now it's pretty much a whiteout outside, 23, yes. And tomorrow it's supposed to be in the 50s again. So,
nice.
Global warming is helping us, I guess, but, because we didn't really know this was going to happen, we kind of held off on the shows.
Now, being in the Buffalo, New York area, are you a Bills fan? And if so, what did you think of this year?
Well, I think I could speak confidently for probably 95% of the Bills fans out there. It was a very disappointing season. Like me, myself, I kind of started to fade off on the Bills wagon after the 4th consecutive Super Bowl that we lost back in the 90s.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
those field goals.
That stung a little bit, and here and there over the past, 10 years or whatever, I've watched a game here or there. I've been on the tail of like, oh my God, we won a game, and then they win another game. Like this year, we started off 4-0.
Yeah.
And everybody here is like, oh my God, we're going to the Super Bowl. It's the best team we've ever had. And from that point on, we lost every game out. So, being a professional sports fan in Buffalo is definitely tough.
Yeah, I would imagine. Of course, Ryan Fitzgerald can grow one hell of a beard, though.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God, yes, he can. I'm just kind of wondering if he still has the beard right now.
Ryan Fitzpatrick, yeah.
What did I say, Fitzgerald? My bad.
Yeah.
Whatever. That's how good he is.
It's okay. I expect that from a Chargers fan.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, exactly. It gets a little heated every once in a while.
Hey, Colonel, how are the Packers doing?
Ooh, low blow.
Yeah.
Low blow.
Yeah. Anyway, go.
Oh, Jesus. Hey, so it's not a good year for any of us for football.
No.
That's a good point, yeah.
What do you think in terms of metal drumming? I heard you say earlier that you really, you thought really highly of Jordan Mancino. What other metal drummers are really high up on your book, and who influenced you?
Well, as far as who's like influenced me, I mean, being an old school metalhead, and when metal was, when you had the big four, the Slayer, the Megadeth, the Metallica, the Anthrax, that whole genre, when that was like, big. Dave Lombardo is probably, the man.
Right.
And then, Igor from Sepultura,
Very good.
Yeah.
Sandoval from Morbid Angel, all those guys are just, they're machines. And over the past 20 years, just when you think that a drummer can't get faster, they do.
Yeah, of course.
And now you got drummers out there like Derek Roddy and Tim Young and George Calais and, people that are just like mind-blowing. My friend, he used to be in a band called Bleed the Sky. They were from out in California.
Yep.
Their drummer, Austin Diamond, is now the drummer for Chimera.
Yes.
And,
Good friends of the show, Chimera.
Austin's my boy. If he hears this, Austin, you my boy. And very, very proud of how far that kid has came from, seeing him play for the first time and someone saying, dude, he's only 21, and wanting to strangle him because he was so good.
Mm-hmm.
And he's had a long road, and, you stick with it. And now he's the drummer for Chimera, so.
And that's another good young drummer we think of, too, is we had the band Ecotren on the show.
Frank Jargello.
And Frank Jargello, he's a really good young drummer, 21, 22 years
Something
old?
like that,
I mean,
yeah.
really, I could only imagine having those kind of skills, and I'm 31. I mean,
Yeah.
these guys have so much more talent than I do in my left pinky finger. It's crazy.
Oh, it's amazing. I mean, it's kind of like that with everything, though. Nowadays, there's a 18-year-old kid playing for the Philadelphia Flyers.
Yeah.
That's right.
NBA basketball players are being drafted right out of high school.
Yeah.
So, definitely youth today is not what it was when I was 21.
Yeah, younger, faster,
Agree with that.
stronger, all of that. It's incredible.
I was drunk and high in a ditch somewhere when I was 21. I was like, yeah, I'll play drums tomorrow after my hangover goes away.
Yeah, right. There's just the way you were used to doing
There's
it.
another day.
Again, you listen to Across the Board with Ian the Colonel here on hawkradio.org and acrosstheboardradio.com with Danny Nelligan, drummer from STEM. Danny, you've actually been in a couple of bands. You were in 5 Years Gone.
Yes.
What is that? Compare the two bands. What is that like? And obviously, dealt with TJ Frost in that band and somewhat in STEM as well. What did you like about both bands? That kind of thing. I guess what's that like to play in multiple bands?
Well, I mean, with anything, the longer you're in something, it's all a learning process. And every band that you're in, being a drummer, you click with the bass player, you click with the guitar player, or you don't.
Right.
And, over time it becomes easier. But Steve Crowell, who was the bass player in 5 Years Gone with me, and also in the band Skunk with me before
Skunk
5
with a
Years
G.
Gone, going back to like 98, 97, me and him clicked from day one. And, he had been with me from 97 all the way up until last year when he had to leave STEM. But it's all been a learning experience, man. Had the fortunate to play with a lot of great guitar players, great bass players. TJ Frost is probably one of my favorite singers that I've ever heard playing with or not playing with, and not just because he's my friend. He is, the heart that guy has is like unmatched.
Now, you mentioned the word click, which brought a question to mind. I've been in the recording studio with some different bands. Some drummers need or prefer, whatever, are comfortable playing with a click track when they're recording.
Yeah.
Some drummers kind of get insulted by that. They think that their timing is impeccable anyway.
Right.
What's your feeling on that?
Well, no one is perfect.
Right.
And playing to a click track only betters you.
Right. It seems like it. Right?
A lot of people, nowadays think that, well, that's good enough. and it's not the case. I mean, there's no such thing as good enough. No matter who you are, no matter what field you're in, you could always be better.
Great attitude.
And that's kind of how I approached it. And 12 years later, I'm still playing to a click track. Sometimes we practice to a click track, sometimes we don't. We're kind of thinking about entertaining the idea of incorporating the click track live.
Really?
That would be the only one that would kind of set my opinion off, is because, when you're live, you've got the adrenaline and the live feeling and
right.
Connecting with the fans and everything, and being held back, for lack of a better term, by a click track might, hinder that feeling. I mean, like some of the songs that we've recorded that we've gone back, some of the songs on the first record, we would, practice to the click track that we recorded it at, after not playing that song to a click for, 6, 7, 8 years.
Right.
And then realizing, wow, that's slow.
Oh, wow, yeah. For those fans who don't know, a click track is basically a metronome timing,
Yep.
set to beats per minute and the tempo and that kind of thing, so people can play along with that and stay, rigorous. Also, for those of you who don't know, in recording an album, about 90% of the time is spent recording drums, because it's so hard to get, all of the different instruments, the pieces of the drum kit. How do you get bored with that process sometimes? Is it hard when you have to, you play through the song a couple of times and they're like, we didn't get the kick right, and you have to play it again. Is it hard to keep that emotion going and playing?
Well, I guess it's kind of all a mindset thing. Normally when you're going into the studio, everybody's psyched because it's a new beginning.
Right.
It's new songs, fresh ideas, and, a potential direction change for the band or whatever. But normally going in there, everybody's, psyched about, what can potentially come of these, ideas that have been mulled over. And, this time with Crossroads, we are all very, very happy with what came out.
In essence, when we listen to music that gets you pumped up, one of the things I've always liked about STEM's music is you listen to it, it gets you amped. And you talked about that partially, about being on stage and the performance adrenaline. But when you perform your music, do you think about how you are affecting your fans, your listeners, that you are pushing them maybe during a workout or helping them get through their rough day?
The more and more time has gone on, the more we've been told that, especially with our affiliation with the UFC, a lot of, up and coming or, aspiring fighters say that they train to face the pain, or they work out with face the pain or whatever. And
I've done that.
To me, even I've been in STEM for 9, 10 years now. It's still kind of one of those things that, I don't know how to feel that comment. Thank you is obviously, one thing comes to my mind, but I just, I think where Joe, Alex, Mario, and myself came from, we're still in the old school way of doing things, and just being humble. We're glad to be able to be, playing and writing the music that we play, and if it touches people, it's an honor to be able to, some guy in Japan that, we've never met, never, talked to or whatever, and have a connection with him because of, something that we wrote.
Yeah, and I definitely feel that as well. I know Colonel and I, we both trained in MMA for a while, and I even still work out to face the pain, holding on, and a lot of stuff off Songs for the Incurable Heart. I mean, a lot of your music, and it just gets me pumped. It's just the energy that you guys transfer, into the notes, and the way you play is incredible, and we appreciate that. And the background noise there actually brings to mind, a good point as well. You're clearly a family man. You've got, a little one in the background there. How is that to tour? No, they're fine. But to tour and record and be away from home so much, how do you work that out schedule-wise?
Well, that's another tough one. I mean, it's something that's been in my blood for, the better part of 25 years now. you know, playing in bands and playing out and, you know, writing music and everything. It's always been, you know, something that is really, like, you know, held a special part of my life.
Right.
And 3 years ago, when my wife and I had this little perfect little girl here, you know, things obviously did change, and, you know, emotions became more attached with her than they came with, you know, certain aspects of the business of music. Never did it take away from, you know, actually being in the band or whatever, but, you know, when you have something like a child, it just kind of, it makes the in the music industry kind of that much more harder to deal with.
Right, I would imagine. Right. And I know it changed.
There's a lot.
I know it changes a lot of people. When we had Peanut from 311 on, you know, he said it had changed him, you know, the way he approached touring and took care of himself, you know, mentally and physically, and also it's an interesting, you know, process, I'm sure, for you.
Yeah, and I can attest to that too, because I know when I had my son, it changed my life, you know, in terms of how I treated myself, how I treated others, and I can see that, and I really would begin to struggle with the idea of being away from my family, away from, you know, young children for a long period of time. I really give a lot of musicians props for being able to do that.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's definitely something that's gone on for, you know, years and years before me, and it'll be something that goes on years and years after I'm gone. So, I mean, you know, it's not meant for everybody. Not everybody can handle doing it. But for those that do stick through it and everything, and, you know, I mean, that's all the respect to them.
Absolutely. Now, I know, again, the band is kind of constantly in a state of flux. Bass for you guys right now, what is the situation for that?
Well, like I mentioned earlier, this era of STEM's bass player Steve Crowell had to leave the band back in February
right.
Of last year for health problems. You know, he did the right thing. You know, I mean, like, we just couldn't keep him in the band. You know, he brought up valid points and concerns and everything. His wife and him had just had a baby, and within the duration of, like, a year, you know, they had another one.
Oh, wow.
So with his health, and, you know, now he's got two children, the better thing for him to do, you know, was to walk away from it.
For sure.
Which, you know, I give my hats off to him, because that's something that, you know, not everyone could do, you know. But putting family first and everything, you know, we're still, you know, every time we're in Pennsylvania, usually we stop and spend the night at his house, you know, after the show or whatever. But our bass player now, his name is Mario. He was in a local band in our area called Into Your Own. Been friends with Joe, Alex, and myself for the better part of 20 years now.
Okay.
Phenomenal bass player. Just filled that gap very well.
Outstanding.
We'll look forward to more of that then.
Yeah, and again, a lot of fans do know you because the UFC helped put you on the national map, and, you know, really put up Face the Pain. A lot of those songs out there, Holding On, and some later songs, and they featured you in games, in TV shows. They're continuing to grow. They're going on national networks. They have a new game coming out in February. Do you have any continued plans to work with the UFC or Strikeforce or any of those?
Well, as far as, like, what, you know, the current state of things, we had been in contact with Dana to possibly re-record Face the Pain. You know, as they're heading into, you know, jumping from Spike to Fox now.
Right.
You know, having a new start with them, you know, bigger level, and, you know, maybe, like, changing, you know, not changing the song as it is, obviously keeping it the way it is, but I mean, you know, making it fresh again. That song was recorded back in 2001, 2002.
Wow.
So, you know, just to give it a, you know, a new face.
That would be great.
But as of right now, if you've watched any of the last weigh-ins, you know, I think the first one that I noticed was when Bones fought Rashad.
Mm-hmm.
They're using songs off of Crossroads. So I mean, they're still using it, and of course, like the Ultimate Fighter. And shows like that, Ultimate Knockouts and everything, they still use Till I Die, 13 Years.
Absolutely.
Songs like that.
And let's talk about the latest single you guys have out as well. It's called Left Behind. And, what does this song bring to the legacy, the history, and the future of STEM?
Hopefully more longevity.
Right.
The four of us are definitely, we've been doing this since we were, not STEM, but music as a whole, since we were, 14, 15 years old. And as time goes on, the love for music and everything never changes, but, the want to try to, win over, record companies or, win over, A&R people, it becomes less and less, in the state that the music industry is in right now with, everybody's, downloading albums and everything on, SoulSeek or LimeWire or, whatever. The record industry sucks right now. And for those that are still, thriving successfully, that's great. There will always be, Nickelback and Avenged Sevenfold and, bands, Five Finger Death Punch. Those bands don't need, help. They have the money and they have the promotion behind them. And, bands like STEM and, Anxiety Effect from here and, Cupla and Illuminath and King Wack and all those, we need help. Hopefully this album will allow us to continue to do what we love doing and, hopefully open doors for other bands that want to do it independently and, maybe are forced to do it independently.
And again, Crossroads is out there now. Support this band, STEM, fantastic band throughout the years, and really looking forward to hopefully seeing you guys live at some point soon as well. Crossroads came out last September on Catch 22 Records. So go out and get that right now. And Facebook.com/STEM band. And it is STEM with 2 M's. And then STEM.net as well. STEM.net. You can keep up with everything there and definitely go get this album. Danny, last question here. The world has 5 to 10 minutes or so before it all comes to an end. What is the last song that you want to hear or perform? Yours or anybody else's, but the last musical notes going through your head?
Oh, Jesus. There's so many, great songs that have withstood the test of time. It would probably be an Oak Ridge Boys song.
Okay, wow, that's definitely a different one.
Yeah, I haven't gotten that as an answer yet.
Oak Ridge Boys.
Which one in particular?
They've been around for 40 years.
Nice.
But yeah, maybe Elvira.
Okay.
Going out to Elvira.
Yeah, man, why not?
I could see that. I could see that in a movie script.
Off into the sun. Yeah, I like that, man. Well, again, Crossroads is out right now. It's been out for a few months. Go get it. Incredible album. We're spinning some tunes off it here on the radio station. And check them out live as soon as they get out there on the road. And look forward to hearing some new stuff coming out soon as well. This is E and the Colonel on Across the Board. Be back in a few minutes here on hawkradio.org
and acrosstheboardradio.com.